Welcome to How to Be a Sales Game Changer. I'm your host, Karen Kelly. Every week, I'll be sitting down with a sales executive where they'll share their stories and experiences that produce game-changing results. Let's be real. Sales can be a tough game. I'm sure at some point, we've all delivered a less than stellar demo, been ghosted by a client or two, and sometimes maybe did more talking than listening. And that's why I'm here to help. The stories and insights our guests share, they can apply to your business, your territory, or with your team. So you're not reinventing the wheel. We'll share specific tactics and strategies to help you get out of your head and start creating your own path towards game-changing results. Welcome back to How to Be a Sales Game Changer. I'm your host, Karen Kelly. Now, the goal of this show is to share game-changing stories that our guest has experienced with their team, themselves, or something that they've witnessed in the industry. So 2020 showed us what was possible. We could still do business virtually, we could connect with our teams, and we could collaborate. And all this was possible because of video. But now that we're in 2021, is there an opportunity to do a deeper dive and really take video to the next level? And that being said, I'm excited to introduce our guest who will help answer that question. This lady is in charge of strategic partnerships at Vidyard, and I'm excited to welcome Rachel Shi to the podcast. Welcome, Rachel.
Thanks for having me, Karen.
My pleasure. I'm delighted to have you on the podcast. So why don't we start by letting the audience know a little bit more about you and what Vidyard does for those who are not familiar, and maybe what attracted you to Vidyard. So being a salesperson, was it the fact that they are a video platform company and you really wanted to go deeper there, or was it the organization as a whole? So maybe just give us a little bit of background there to get us started.
Yeah, of course. So pleasure to be on here and happy to share a little bit more about myself. So I work as a senior partner manager here at Vidyard. Specifically, what that means is I own our sales trainer and coach ecosystem, helping them unlock the power of video in their business, and in doing so, reaching the thousands of salespeople out there who are using video today. In terms of what drew me to Vidyard, so I'd actually used the platform myself as a salesperson. Before the role, I'd been in various sales roles in tech and agencies for around about 6 years or so, and had always used a platform in my own role as another tool in my toolkit. So when this role came up, it kind of seemed like to me a kind of a perfect marriage of the things that I'd already been doing, a tool that I loved, and getting to work with sales trainers and people who are the best in their field. So couldn't say no to the opportunity.
That's great. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. So the way I want to unroll this for today is really if we kind of took a top of funnel approach and just understood or peeled back the layers as to, for those not doing video, like what's holding them back? I like to know, is it fear? Like I'd like to break that apart a little bit. And then maybe we work into the benefits. So what are the benefits of video? And we can talk about both internally if you're a sales leader for your team, and it's also externally if you're prospecting, what are the benefits? We can look at where in the sales process does it make better sense to use a video? Is there places that are more useful or see greater results than others? And then I want to end it with very tactical, because I know salespeople, they just want to know what can I do here and push this and do that. And I think that really is going to help people get started when we can really break it down. So why don't we start with just understanding those who are not using video? And there might be a lot, I don't know the stats, but what do you think is holding them back?
Yeah, well, I mean, Karen, I think it ultimately just boils down to the fact that it's new for a lot of people, right? It's while it's a tool that I've personally used, and a lot of my peers have been using, kind of in the more tech, high tech realm. It's not something that's been available to a lot of other sales reps in other industries, right? So I would say just that newness and the fact that it is something that you haven't done before naturally is going to, not have people be totally comfortable with embracing it. That being said, I mean, I think it's something that all of us now, regardless of what role, what industry you're in, it's almost a non-negotiable tool now. And even if we just think about it from a Zoom perspective, right, like real-time video, I think all of us now who are listening to the podcast recognize the value in turning your camera on, right? When you're having a Zoom call with a prospect, with a client, just having that human connection is so important. We call video sort of as the next best thing to being there in person, right? Which is obviously not feasible right now. So it's small things like that. Once you get used to it, it's it becomes a no brainer. Now, in terms of sort of getting more comfortable, I mean, we can go into this all day, but I think, again, just recognizing that it is something that it is a skill. You have to spend time, you have to spend effort into sort of learning a little bit more about it, and just giving it a go will go a long way in terms of just developing that confidence.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think you're right on all those points. And what I see a lot of as well is a lot of fear there and discomfort. And I think people are, they don't like the sound of their voice or the way they look on camera. And the only thing I have for that is, who is the focus when you're thinking about it like that? You're you're inwardly thinking, and it should be about the other person. So a lot of times when I'm doing webinars, I turn my self view off so I can't see me, and it forces me to focus on others. So I just think, like, when you're thinking in that lens, you're not thinking about others. So part of it is just get out of your head. And when I first started, yes, it was totally uncomfortable, but through time you get a little less cringeworthy. You might have to take a few different takes, but then you realize, what, done is better than perfect, and you start getting better, you start trying different things. And I think, in my experience and what I've heard from others, is it gets a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, no, I think you hit on a really good point there, Karen, just in terms of not striving for perfection, right? So, just to bring it back to Vidyard and kind of what it is that we do, right? We are a technology platform, and we help people communicate better with their customers through asynchronous video, right? So there's a little bit of a difference, in terms of asynchronous and synchronous. Synchronous is more so the Zooms, the Skypes, what we're doing right now. And then asynchronous is pre-recording, those videos, and pre-recording your own content for distribution to your customers, your team, your leadership, etc. So yeah, I mean, whether we like it or not, we're all content creators now. It's 2021. This is the way that people prefer to consume content, people including your buyers. So as salespeople, like, in order to be really, really good at what you do, it means that you have to adapt to the way that people are buying now. So if we just think about it from that lens, in terms of what is it that creates the best buying experience in this remote world, video is a no-brainer there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, to be honest, we don't really have a choice. But when you think back about why people buy, and it's people buy from people. And this is the next best thing to seeing them in person. So I can feel the connection. And it's funny when I have emailed back and forth with somebody, and then we turn on our cameras, it's this, hey, we've never met, but there's this, energy through the technology that you have. And I feel like it's instant. So I think that the quicker you can kind of get out of your head, you'll see the benefits of it, and also where your customers are expecting it. They're there, so we have to meet them where they're at.
No, I think you're spot on there, and I mean, you could even reference back to our own relationship for that. You and I haven't met in person, right? Like, we got connected during COVID, during the pandemic, but so far we've done a whole bunch of fun things together from a partnership perspective, despite the fact that we've never met in person, right? And I don't think a relationship like that could be developed solely through emails or phone calls, right? The reason why we are so comfortable together and sort of have that innate trust, in working together, is because we have the capacity to get to know each other through the medium of video. And I think, it's something to almost just taking a step back a little bit, thinking about video. It's not something that is going to be a silver bullet, right? We're not talking about replacing all your communications with your prospects, with your clients, using video. It's one tool in your toolkit. Quite frankly, it's one that's extremely underutilized right now by your competitors, people who are reaching out to the exact same buyers that you are today. So getting good at video, getting comfortable with it, I can tell you, for 2021 is going to be a game changer for any listeners to the podcast.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Yeah, people just need to embrace it and kind of get on board with it because that's where we're at. It's 2021. And I would say, whatever happens moving forward, I think we're always going to be back to video. Like it's people see the benefits. There's too many benefits to go back to the face to face completely.
Yeah, no, and sort of going back to sort of what you referenced before, right? In terms of sort of the buyer experience, HubSpot actually released a an interesting report that they ran during the entirety of COVID, where they actually surveyed their entire customer base. So think about HubSpot and how big that is. I think it was around 100,000 companies, and it was like a state of sales report, and what they found was that prospects are actually receiving twice the amount of emails that they were compared to pre-COVID times. Twice the amount of emails in their inbox. Now, if we think about that, and then also add on the fact that they found that response rates are down 40% from the overall stats again from pre-COVID times, those are some pretty bleak stats if you're a salesperson trying to earn the attention and earn the trust of your buyer, right? So I mean, I think again the real beauty of video is that it is just a medium that allows you to show up differently, allows you to show your real human self to that buyer. And the beauty of asynchronous is that you can pre-record this ahead of time, right? It's not even the real pressure of like a real-time Zoom call where you're on a demo and there's pressure to be a certain way. There's no going back. This is a medium that you can have a lot of fun with, right? Try different things. Are there things that are like little props or visuals that you can maybe leverage in your video that pertain to your buyer, right? We've got a ton of fun examples even on our website that anyone can check out. But I mean, I can think of an example where a rep at a company called Dynamic Signal, they're a customer of Vidyards, he was prospecting into Wild Wings, Buffalo Wild Wings. And what he actually did in that initial touch was literally eat a box of their Wild Wings while communicating the message and explaining why I was reaching out and work they've done with other customers and asking for the meeting. It got an amazing response. It's still up on our website. It's one of the most viewed videos there, but that's just sort of the tip of the iceberg, right? It really just allows you to show the buyer that hey, you know them, you know why you're reaching out, and you have a way to potentially help them and their business. So again, all of this is completely lost just over a cold email.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And email, there's no tone, right? And it's like it sounds to me what you just described there is it's a pattern interrupt with the increase in emails and outreach to customers. Like you have to really stand out. So like eating a bucket of chicken wings, as you just mentioned. But a great way is just do a video, and that automatically is a differentiator. And when I tell my clients that, they look at me like, "Really?" And I guess some people are, late to the game, but I just think absolutely. And I think what you said about asynchronous, so just so, asynchronous is pre-recorded versus synchronous is live real time. But, if you're apprehensive about it, that asynchronous will allow you to have a few takes and kind of get it as close to perfect or as comfortable as you are and then send it. That will help speed things up and, in terms of getting over that discomfort. So I think there's a lot of benefits to both, but just for those looking to get started. Now, when you think about where to or actually let's back it up a bit. So, we've mentioned kind of a lot of the benefits. Is there any other benefits that we haven't talked about that you feel would help people push them over to get them started using video?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the fact that it's just super accessible too, right? Like for Vidyard, we have literally a free Chrome extension that anybody can download right away and get started. So all you need is literally a webcam, the inbuilt mic of your laptop or computer, no fancy equipment, no crazy production costs or anything like that. I literally just use my laptop and that's it for all my videos and all my calls, and I've gotten amazing results personally from my own videos. So I think the low barrier to entry is also really appealing for people, and the fact that it is just free to get started right away.
Yeah. That's great, and I think a lot of people that may also be holding them back is just they think there's an expense what they have to have, all this high tech technology, and I think just to get started is just to go and allow them to see your face and really connect in that human way. And there's really nothing holding you back other than you.
100%. I think it's not the technology, it's not the tools that you have at your disposal. It's kind of that mental hurdle, right? In terms of like, oh, this is something new, it's scary, but I mean, the results speak for themselves. It's something that I think, the more you talk about why you shouldn't do it is time wasted actually going out there and trying to do it. So I mean, I'm a huge proponent of just stepping outside your comfort zone and trying something new.
Hmm. Even sending it to somebody first and saying, "Is this okay?" Because I think sometimes, we know it so well, but the message may not completely translate, or, is it succinct enough? Is it focused enough on your target audience that maybe just sending it to someone and saying, "Does this land?" It's like telling a joke first, making sure it's going to land. Just send it to somebody and make sure that, you kind of get that approval before you send it until you get a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, there is a certain framework that we should be using, right? When it comes to video, it's not as in any sort of as any sales trainer will tell you, it's not a spray and pray approach, right? We're not just sending videos randomly to anybody who will, whose email address that we have. You do have to take a methodical approach to it. There is a process. There are different stages in the sales process too that different sorts of videos make sense in. I've had people who have commented, hey, like use this Vidyard thing and it doesn't work, and I look at the video and it's because you're just pitching your product to someone who doesn't know you, right? How do you expect that's going to land? What if you receive that email, right? Sometimes it's a basic just emotional intelligence situation, putting yourself in the shoes of the buyer. But I mean, I wanted to maybe share an example of a customer who has been using video in a pretty creative way, which I think maybe might resonate with some of your listeners. So Thomas Buchanan, he is sales rep at a company called Modus out in Minneapolis. They're a sales enablement platform. They work with dealer distributors, basically making the sales process easier, sort of in the back channels. And Thomas is an amazing example because his success has been featured in our Fast Forward event that we hold every year. He shared actually just a couple of weeks ago how he sources and accelerates and closes six-figure deals regularly using Vidyard Video. And I wanted to maybe just share his process here because I think it could be helpful for some of your listeners. So the way that Thomas does it is using a combination of tactics, right? He's not just using video, but how he'll start is through a cold call, right? So he's still picking up the phone, he's still reaching out to prospects, getting them on that first touch through a call. From there, once he connects, basically he'll open up the call, explain who he is, why he's calling, and then ask for permission to send a personalized video as to how he can potentially help. Person on the other side usually says yes. Who can really sort of turn that down, right? It's very low lift. Hangs up the phone, gets out his iPad, creates a very quick 90-second demo. It's his famous 90-second demo. And, if you reach out to him, I'm sure he'll share it. Basically, very casual, very authentic, sharing a little bit more about the platform, maybe a customer success story, how he's helped a customer similar to the guy that he's reaching out to, and sending that right away. From that point, his open rate is pretty much 100%, right? He'll get the person viewing that video. They've already sort of given him the permission to do so, so they'll check it out. From that point, it's very, very common that video then gets circulated internally across the other stakeholders. So he's reaching out to VPs of marketing, for instance. Usually he'll get marketing ops, sales ops, sales reps, sort of all checking out the video as well. It's pre-recorded, it's personal, it's authentic, it's there. And that video usually gets some virality sort of within the organization before they even connect for a real-time call. So, again, he's not sending the video just as is. He's sending it with an invitation. If this looks interesting to you, let me know if it makes sense to jump on a call. a lot of the time they will reply and say, hey, if it does look interesting, this is relevant, the timing is right, they will get on a call. And what this does is two things. So, number one, that prospect is already pre qualified, right? He's not talking to someone and just like taking them through a 30-minute like discovery interrogation process, right? He's shown that he's done some research and he's shown exactly one or two ways that he could potentially improve their business. So, they're coming already with that in mind. Number two, he's already involving all the different stakeholders in the business who are involved in the decision of a potential purchase, right? He's no longer just relying on this one champion, this one individual, for whom he doesn't even really know yet, right? He doesn't know their power, their influence in the organization, but he's already, sort of infiltrated, so to speak, the rest of the org and has built that influence and also just control the narrative too. If we think about the way that we sell and sort of how traditionally we have just relied on that one advocate or that one champion to do the selling internally, and just thinking about how so many deals go dark that way. If something happens, a person goes on holiday, it's end of quarter, all the different things that happen. Now, no longer is that the case, right? He's got sort of everybody involved and on his terms, and he's sharing that story. So, wanted to share that as I thought it was a pretty creative way that he was using video and doing so in a really, really intelligent way.
Yeah, that's a great story. Way to go, Thomas. So for those of you listening, what I caught from that is, I mean, obviously he's strategic in his approach, but it's look at the reach. He significantly increases reach, and I would imagine his sales cycle has decreased as a result of that. Um, because what I see is, and he's proactive. So he's like, as you said, he's qualifying. So when they get to that meeting, he's multi-threaded. So it's not just that one person he's reached out to. They've shared it to more people. They're aware of where they're at, what problems that they're having, and potentially what Thomas's solution is. So I think when they get there, you've got buy-in. And I always looked at the physical verifiers from the buyer side to show that the deal is actually moving forward, because a lot of it is confirmation bias. We're hearing things we want to hear, but you're seeing this spreading internally. He's infiltrating, they're accepting things, they're clicking on links. That's showing buyer intent, right? How great is that? And, the fact that you have the ability to track that is another, benefit, obviously, to the likes of Vidyard, because I think when you think about sales, it's iterative, right? So you have to be testing things and saying, okay, so that I thought that was a great video. Why did it only get 2 clicks, or why didn't it, get opened at all, or out of the minute and a half, why did they stop watching at 10 seconds? So maybe talk a little bit about the importance of analytics.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point because it kind of articulates the difference between Vidyard, which is a video business communications tool, versus a more of like a consumer tool like YouTube or video, right? We do get that question a lot, like what's the difference? And the real difference is that you can use the analytics of Vidyard to really track the results of how your video is performing and tying that back to your efforts as a salesperson, right? So as a salesperson on that level, we can think of examples like with Thomas, right? If we're seeing our videos being opened 20, 30, 40 times within the organization, we can see the attention spans of the people who are watching the video, the different personas. Instantly, we're going to have a much better understanding of the customer and where they're at and who's involved in that process. And, back to your point about buyer intent, likely the intent is pretty high, right? So that allows us as salespeople, again, to just prioritize our efforts a little bit better, right? If we've sent videos out to 50 prospects, only 20 open it, and of those, maybe 5 are watching it again and again and again. Maybe those 5 are the ones that we want to be spending most of our time with, right? So that's a way to think about it from a sales rep perspective. I would say from a sales leadership side of things, when we sort of go to that next level, and Vidyard has certain packages and things that you can leverage as a sales leader. Where let's just say you've got a sales team of 50. Your goal is to obviously book more meetings, close more deals, drive pipeline. All of these things are things that are hard to track, right? Through the different sort of tools and tactics that people are using. Some are going to be using video more, some are going to be using phone, email, etc. So the analytics for Vidyard specifically, again, just give management that insight and visibility into what's working and what's not, and how we can replicate more of the former. So, different sort of features within the platform that sort of cater to different business needs and challenges, for sales teams.
Hmm. I think analytics are great, and it really just shows you don't know what you don't know, right? So you're kind of leading blind, and maybe you're iterating too quickly. Maybe it needed more time. There's a lot of variables. Maybe it's too early in the sales process because Thomas was doing it right after the cold call. I'm sure there's other points that he could be doing it, but I think analytics is key. One thing I just want to touch on, you mentioned sales leaders. Now, this is a little bit kind of out of scope here, but sales leaders have been forced to manage their teams remotely, in 2020. And a lot of what they do is, they're developing their team, they're managing productivity. So, what are ways that sales leaders could benefit from this to really help engage their team, motivate them, develop them? And then again, that inclusivity. Like I'm sure there's people that are still struggling, from a mental health standpoint. How can video kind of address those things from a team perspective?
It's managing a remote team. I imagine is very very new to all the managers and directors and leaders out there, who are not only needing to find ways to manage and motivate their existing team, but also finding ways to engage new hires, right? People who are coming board during a remote time. I know I personally did, right? Which is always difficult, right? That person would obviously need more of a higher touch. You need to figure out ways to keep them, like make them feel included within the broader fabric of the team. And I mean, I think video is definitely a good tool to use, in doing so. One way that I can think of one way that I can think of video coming into play is how Vidyard is doing it. So for us, in terms of our company, we're around 250 people now, and we're growing like crazy, actually. So a lot of new people coming on board. One way that our leadership keeps everything and everyone on the same page is through a weekly update done through a video by our CEO. So it's usually just a quick, very quick snippet, 5 or 6 minutes. He covers off every different department, what's going on, success stories, getting people excited, and just sharing that out every Friday. So I find that to be, pretty inspiring, right? I know I've worked for companies where we've never even, had any connection with the leadership team. We all felt like very siloed. We never felt like, we were super connected with, folks at that level. So I think video is just a really, really good way that, our CEO ensures that he's remaining human, he's remaining connected to the rest of the company, and doing so in a way that's educational, informative, and gets people excited, to come to work every day. As for sales leadership specifically, right? I think there are a plethora of things that we could do. I think one issue that a lot of sales reps are now encountering is a bit of Zoom fatigue, to be honest, right? I think we've all been in that position where we're sitting through like 1 hour long sales all hands, people just sort of going through dashboard metrics, things that aren't super relevant to us, on the call. So one thing that sales leaders can do, just to make things a little bit better for everyone, is thinking about how we can leverage asynchronous video in sort of that meeting cadence. So, for instance, at Vidyard, one of the things that we've done to cut down our sales all hands down to a very short amount of time is having our VP of revenue will send an asynchronous video, pre-recorded, sharing all the relevant stats that everyone needs to know, success stories, etc., ahead of time. It'll be 24 hours ahead. Lets the sales reps, lets the managers consume that at their own pace, formulate any questions that they might have, things they want to address. And then the actual meeting will be literally 20 minutes long, during which point everyone is coming in prepared. People who are, usually don't even speak up in meetings, right? We've got people who need generally a little bit of time to formulate questions. They're coming to the table, with talking points and, ways to contribute to a more productive conversation. So all in all, we found it to be a pretty good use of everyone's time, right? Just sort of thinking about how we can kind of reprogram the way that we hold meetings and gather as teams now, which is again so different in a remote world. And you think about ways that we can kind of give people some time back into their days that way.
Yeah, those are all great points. So just if I can kind of summarize a little bit, I think when it comes to leaders, it's modeling the behavior and just, really being culture focused. And those who might have walked the floor in person before can't do that anymore. So I think a 1 to 2 minute video like your CEO is doing allows people to see his or her face again, connect with them. But again, he is modeling the behavior. So he's saying, this is what I'm doing, therefore I expect you to be doing the same thing, right? And I think it's just, yeah, I think that's all really good of just getting out of our heads, doing it, because Zoom gloom is real. And I think if you can do asynchronous videos or anything to reduce the time that people have, they're so grateful for it. And as you said, the productivity, the energy, you see the results and the benefits after, that give them that service, offer that to them. I speak with clients and they say, I haven't been to the bathroom in 6 hours. And I just think like what are we doing to our people here at the same time? Like where is, self-care? Because this is as great as video is, all this is can contribute to, you know, um overwhelm and burnout, so I think if you as a leader can shelter your team from some of that. And that's a great idea from the asynchronous and give a little video that they can watch it on their own, but it gives them what they need to come prepared to the meeting. Same with your clients, because they're having their own meetings internally that even though they're meeting with you, it's still another opportunity for a camera. And when we're on, it's very different than being in a regular boardroom. We're not staring at everybody like so intently face to face, whereas you're on all the time here and it's exhausting. Okay, so let's kind of take this to the final stretch here and let's really get tactical. So a lot of people are like, okay, I'm going to get out of my head. As a leader, I'm going to start doing it with my team more. I'm going to model the behavior. I'm going to work through the discomfort. I see the benefits, going to be a pattern interrupt. Now, what do I do? Like, where do I start? We talked about we don't need to make the big investments, but if we can get tactical, like what kind of tactical things could people start doing or thinking about now that would get them started?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can kind of divide it into two parts, right? One for perhaps people who are just getting started, and then also for people who have been doing it for a little while and some of the advanced techniques that they can use. So I'll start with the beginner folks. First things first, download the Vidyard Chrome extension. It really is just so easy to get started and with literally $0 investment. So would recommend everyone after this podcast download it and get started right away. But then, what do we do from there? Well, I recommend for everybody, if you haven't already, create a nice little space in your home that is your video sanctuary, right? This isn't only for Vidyard; it's for getting on Zoom calls, etc. Try to make it a place where isn't cluttered. It's not something that's distracting. There's some nice light sort of shining on your face. Something that just makes it a more pleasant environment to be in and motivates you to create these videos, right? You don't want to look at your own grainy face in some dark basement when you're creating videos. So that's something that I highly recommend. I also would say, in terms of just the way to think about it, think of video selling and creating these videos as just being another skill, right? If you're a sales rep, you had to get really good at emailing and figuring out the right message. You had to get really good at cold calling, figuring out how to even open up a call with a stranger. Creating videos is no different. And arguably, I'd say it's more fun, right? If you're in the sales game, likely, you like a little bit of performance, you like a little bit of theater. So that's something that really you do have such a cool opportunity in front of you to do and sort of let your personality shine. So I would recommend maybe blocking off an hour in your calendar every day and just make that video time, right? Maybe do your cold calls fast and then having your video hour afterwards, right? For the people who did express interest. And then move on, right? Nothing to sort of get too stressed about. So blocking of time I would also see as being important. And then last but not least, just obviously having fun, right? It's really just something that's not too serious. It's something that I would say that I personally have done a lot more too since joining Vidyard, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. And just seeing sort of the different results that your team is producing, get everyone else on board and sort of see who's making videos that are working and what's not, can be a really good fun way to sort of get the team motivated and bring the fun back to sales. So that's sort of the more beginner techniques.
I just wanted to pause on that last one about sharing videos because I think now with sales teams being isolated and at home, they can get in their heads. We all know people are struggling, and that if they can share videos that have worked or provided value at a certain stage in the sales cycle, why not share that with your team, whether it be Slack or an email, or share the video and say, this is what I use there, and almost create this can be built into the playbook or a repository of like, this is the library. So at this point, this video really works to get you to that next level in the sales process. And I think just sharing that might help people. They can still make it their own, but give them a little bit of a playbook to help them navigate the complexity. Because as you said, some people have joined companies, they've had remote onboarding, and they have no clue what to do. So if someone can give them a little bit of a hand of saying, like, you know what, when you get here, they like this paper, but when you add the video, wow, do you go to the next step a lot quicker? What are your thoughts on that?
Mhm. Spot on, right? I think it's something that obviously goes back to team culture, right? And something that leaders need to do to actively foster and be proactive about and getting the team to actually do on a consistent basis. But yeah, it's so fun, right? It's better than listening to your teammates cold call, I think, right? Just sort of seeing how they've used video, what sort of little props they might have used. Did they use a whiteboard with the prospect's name on it? Did they wave so that the GIF was animated, so that drove that open rate up? What different sort of little techniques did they use to have that video really be a success? Was it a certain amount of time? Right? Is it short and sweet? Where did they send that video? Was it through email? Was it through LinkedIn? So definitely an opportunity to collaborate, and something that sales leaders can sort of really take away from this in terms of thinking of different ways that they can get the team working together as an actual team.
Okay, great. Now you're going to share some for those who kind of have already got their feet wet and they want to maybe take it up a notch. So what would you suggest that group of folks do?
Yeah. So, I mean, one way that we've mostly talked about video today has been top of funnel, right? So, video prospecting. How do we, break through the noise, outreach to someone for the first time? But I think what is actually a huge missed opportunity is using video throughout the entire sales process. And there are so many different ways that you can use it, and I can sort of share some of them with you right now. So, if we want to just think about our funnel as being divided into three parts: awareness, consideration, close, the most basic level. Awareness, we've kind of discussed. You can have your little selfie video introducing yourself, sort of earning that meeting. What about sort of mid funnel though, right? What if someone's already got that meeting with you? They had a conversation. Now it's just about thinking about how that product or service that you're selling fits into the rest of their product stack, how it's going to be relevant to other teams. So think about maybe doing things like micro demos, right? So let's just say you've got somebody else from IT, right? You're selling to marketing, but IT needs to be bought in as well. Why don't you do a quick 2-minute demo of the platform as it pertains to that stakeholder and their specific needs, and use that to get them bought into it, right? That's one way of doing it. Product overviews. I personally, back at Hootsuite, when I worked as a sales rep there, I would have my solutions engineer, sort of create these just fun little videos, and just create a little library, right? It wasn't something that we were doing net new, even for everyone that we were talking to. She had created just a playlist of 10 separate videos about certain features that we got the most questions about. And whenever we got questions from the relevant persona at that account that we were working, I would just send that quick video, right? Huge time saver. We're not trying to wrangle people again onto a 30-minute, hour-long, real-time call. We're just sending that, letting them consume it at their own pace, and inviting them to connect with us as to when that makes sense. So those are some creative ways for mid funnel. And if we're talking about closing stage, right? So that person's bought in, they're ready to make a purchase of some kind. Maybe it's between you and your competitor. Thinking about maybe ways to insert customer testimonials in there. So, one secret weapon that you could use is having a happy customer that you've already worked with, somebody who trusts you, likes you, they've seen success with your product. Have them just make a 30-second little like selfie video as to their experience, why they like you, and how it's gone so far. Have them send that to you, send it to your prospect. I guarantee your competition is not doing this today, right? That's usually where your competition is using weird high pressure tactics, discounts, like weird unnatural behavior that ultimately is doesn't get anyone anywhere, right? It results in a loss in business for you. It's not a pleasant experience for the customer. Just think of, yeah, so these creative ways that you can sort of use video at that closing stage, right? Maybe it's a message even from your CEO welcoming them to the company, to the family. That's been really effective. So that's another way to use it. Um, and then, last but not least, if we even want to think about post sale, right? So let's just say you've got a new feature that's been released and you want to introduce that to your customer. One of the things that our reps do is sometimes just make a quick little video of that feature, send it over, say, hey, just letting you know, I know you have XYZ challenges going on, you're trying to get to XYZ goals, thought that this might be helpful. Again, just allows that person to consume that content at their own pace and talk to the rep when it makes sense to. Very, very natural conversation. The onboarding process, if you're handing the account over to a customer success manager or an account manager, just making that warm introduction, showing people who their point of contact is, another opportunity. So I could really go on, and I won't talk everyone's ear off here, but I think hopefully that just gives you a sense of how you can use video in a more intelligent way, just in your entire sales process that goes far beyond that sort of first touch prospecting cadence.
Those are really great tips, Rachel. Thank you for that, because I think most people think of that initial introductory video, and they don't think beyond that. And when I speak with my clients, where I use it the most is in the proposal phase. So my goal is to excuse me, have a call face to face, or live call to walk them through the proposal. And if that can't happen, then I upload it and I have a little video and I walk them through very high level. And just because I want it as clear as possible. And you think about, a frictionless sales process, and especially if there's different stakeholders and they all get caught up in, what did this mean? Is this, total cost of ownership? Is this monthly? Like what is this? And it's probably 4 to 5 minutes and they're still getting the PDF. But I find those people who haven't met me, they see me, there's that human connection, there's instant clarity, and the deal gets signed that much quicker. So I find when you can look at places like that, if there's a bit of a stall, just that interruption video, keep top of mind and remind yourself. But I think regardless of the point you're doing it, you're injecting a human connection, and it makes it very difficult for people to say no to a
Mm-hmm.
person.
Spot on. I think that is it's an extension of something that we like to educate our clients on, in that using video in that way and at that point in the sales process, like during proposal stage, pricing, etc., it gives you access to that person behind the curtain who's signing the proposal, someone who you may never actually meet in the process, right? They just hold the purse strings, with the CFO or whomever, right? Somebody who has this immense power over you as a rep and the success of your deal, that otherwise you would just never get the chance to sort of show up and sort of control the narrative in that way. So great point there.
That's why I actually love it. But I think you have the ability, as you just mentioned, to influence somebody you probably will never meet. And another thing I do is, if I'm including it, something to the CFO or risk or whoever am I talking to, I include a timestamp. So even though, it's 6 or 7 minutes, I say what's 2 minutes and 20 seconds, because again, it's just, the currency we trade in now is time. So if I can pinpoint it to somebody where it's most important to them, I've showed them that I'm focused on that. If they then choose to watch the remaining 3 minutes, that's up to them. But I think little things like that just show that, you know what, I'm focusing on you. I respect the fact that you're busy, but I felt that this is relevant to what someone of your title or persona is interested in. So you're considered with the finances. Here's the ROI that shows what we were talking about.
Spot on. Couldn't agree more, Karen.
So one last thing, I just want to share the story. Do you remember? I guess it was, I don't even know if it was 2019 or 2020 when Professor Kelly was doing an interview with CNN, and his son ran in the room, and it was just like pandemonium. His face was, oh my gosh. And the irony is, like, this is where we're at today. My customers, I'm talking to them, their kids, if their kids don't come in, I'm like, where's John today? School's over. Like, it's expected. That I just think, like, the pendulum has shifted so the other way that I think it's really it's in it's inviting us or pushing us to create more humanized connections. So if you were meeting with, C suites in the executive boardroom, pre COVID, now you're seeing them at home with their cat, maybe in a baseball cap. And I just, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, but it feels like we're able to connect with them in a way that we may not have done back in pre COVID. So, what I'm kind of saying is there is a silver lining here. It's not all bad. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I think it, more so just speaks to a broader cultural shift that we're all going through in the business world, where the lines between professional and personal are blurring, right? We are all literally all 6, 7 billion of us across the world
Mhm.
are going through the same thing. Those of us who are working from home, anyway, right? It's we automatically have that common topic that we can all talk about. Everyone's sort of going through the same thing. Parents are going through the same thing, homeschooling kids, right? Sort of figuring out that whole thing and balancing that with work. So, I mean, I agree with you. I think it does actually, despite the fact that we are physically distant with one another, we do have that one point of connection now that is you're kind of letting strangers into your own home, right, through sort of the videos and like the zooms that we're doing. It's an invitation, it's a way to bond that previously, perhaps in the corporate world and back in the office days, we just weren't able to do. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting point.
Okay, so we're nearing the end now. So I know you've mentioned many tactical tips, where to use video in various stages of the sales process, why to use it to get out of our head. If we just want to kind of if we could sum it up into 3 points or three tactical steps that people can, maybe that applies to everybody, like what can they do to start really producing the game changing results? Would it be, audio? Is it lighting? Is it really hone in on the content? Like, where should they be focusing?
Mhm. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, Karen, the best suggestion that I can give folks, especially if you're just getting started out, I don't even think it's about the technology or the audio or the lighting, right? I think, we touched on a little bit around that before. I think it's just about saying yes to something that may be outside your comfort zone, right? Just committing to doing something a little bit different today that you were not doing yesterday. Here at Vidyard, our sales culture, which really kind of mirrors my own philosophy to this, is just the commitment to getting 1% better every day. And that means stepping outside your comfort zone. As the old adage goes, growth doesn't occur when there is comfort, right? So thinking about, different ways you can do that. Video is just one thing that you can do. But again, I think it's just a philosophy that all salespeople now uh, need to have pretty much more than ever in this remote world in order to continue to see success, continue hitting their numbers, and yeah, doing really well.
Okay. And Rachel, so thank you for that. So for those of you listening, try that 1% every day. I think, as you said, if you lean into the discomfort, only then is change on the other side. And that really applies to everything we do. But, think about something that you felt uncomfortable doing before and now you do it, effortlessly. Video really is no different. So I would just say, to echo everything you said, just get started. You're probably going to be one step ahead of your competitors. That could be the differentiator that just pushes you over and wins the deal. So Rachel, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule and sharing these very valuable insights so that we're not so reactive. We're more proactive when we can take what we've learned from 2020 and be more intentional with it as it relates to video and our prospects as well as our internal sales teams. So for those who would like to learn more about Vidyard or connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so I would say, the easiest would probably be LinkedIn, Rachel Shi at LinkedIn. So I'm very active there. You can email me, rachel.shi@vidyard.com. I'm sure Karen will share the details here. But yeah, reach out. If you need any help sort of getting started with the free tool, we're always here to help.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I would say put one foot in front of the other and turn that camera on and let your personality shine through. Have a little fun. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great day.